Welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer. At the present time, we are looking at an article entitled Love4Love, The Life and the Works of St. Teresa of Jesus, is written by Edith Stein. Today we turn our attention to what Edith Stein has to tell us about the monastery of the Incarnation, where Teresa was a novice. The house that in her childish reflections Teresa preferred over the Augustinians because a dear friend lived there. Her dear friend's name was Juana Suarez, and she was the blood sister of her beloved teacher Maria Bricino at the Augustinians. It was a Carmelite monastery of the Incarnation that Teresa preferred. It also had a number of other material advantages that could prejudice a receptive disposition. Its magnificent location, its beautiful, spacious buildings, its expansive garden through which flowed clear streams. But these earthly motives were no longer decisive. In spite of my preference for the monastery where my friend lived, I already felt to enter some other one should I have had the hope of serving God better there, or should it have been my Father's wish. For I was seriously seeking the salvation of my soul and placed really little value on quiet living. So it was clearly God's mysterious grace guiding her that gave Teresa the inner certainty of where to direct her steps. The Order of the Most Blessed Virgin of Mount Carmel, to which Teresa now belonged, already looked back on a long and glorious past. It revered as its founder the prophet Elijah, who led a hermit's life of prayer and fasting with his disciples in the caves of Mount Carmel. When his prayer freed the land of Israel from a drought that had lasted for years, then, according to the order's legend, in a little cloud that signaled the saving rain, his prophetic vision recognized the image of the Virgin who would bear God. She who would bring grace. He is said to have been the first to revere the Mother of God, and the first shrine to Mary is said to have stood on the lovely heights of Mount Carmel. During the time of the Crusades, the hermits of Mount Carmel were organized as an order. At their request, Patriarch Albert of Jerusalem, he was the mayor of Jerusalem, gave them the rule for their order around 1200. In solitude and in silence, they were to meditate on the law of the Lord day and night, to observe strict fasts as of old, and to obtain what they needed to live by the work of their own hands, as the Apostle Paul exhorted. The persecution of religious by the Muslim conquerors of the Holy Land led to the transplantation of the order to the West, towards Europe, in other words. Here, the destiny of other orders at the beginning of the Middle Ages befell them also. The strict discipline of old gave way to a certain mitigation, in other words, a relaxed rule. Pope Eugene IV moderated the original rule, and the first women's monasteries of the order were founded in the 15th century on the basis of these moderated or more relaxed regulations. They also were observed at the monastery of the Incarnation, where Teresa was. It had only been in existence for a few decades before Teresa entered this monastery, and one could not have accused it of abuses. The existing regulations were being followed, and the nuns were of deep piety and of exemplary conduct. But there was scarcely a trace left of the strong spirit of the original Carmel. Amen. So thank you so much for listening. We are listening to Edith Stein talk to us about her interpretation of Teresa of Avila at the Incarnation Monastery in Spain, where she was a novice, and that Teresa's role in the Carmel was to reform the Carmel, or to bring it back to the original rule as written by Albert, the Patriarch Albert, the mayor of Jerusalem at the time. And because when they arrived in Europe, the rule relaxed. They were faced with the 100-Year War, and they were faced with the plague as well. So things relaxed, and so, as was just said, the rule of Carmel was pretty much non-existent at the Incarnation Monastery. So anyway, I hope that you're enjoying this little study, and may God bless you and yours. Amen.